Hey, friends, and a pleasant good evening. Welcome to Lions Live as we broadcast here at State College. Greg Johnson, Big Duke, Stephen Davis, Joe Nastase will join us here shortly, bring the best of Penn State sports, and talking about some of the stories from the past, talking about the present. Looking forward to a great future here. Some house cleaning things here. First of all, happy Veterans Day to the veterans out there. Happy belated birthday to Marines, Semper Fi Brothers, from Marine to Marine. And Greg, great weekend of football here. A lot of fun talking Penn State sports here for another week. The fastest week in football. The network built by the players for the fans. We're not a podcast, and we are Lions Live on the Forever Lions Network. Thanks for joining us, Greg. A great weekend of football here. We kind of called it the way it was. A close game with Penn State and a win.
Yep. It was, you know what, man, I think at this point in time of the season, we're, 9 games in? We're 1 game away from bowl eligibility. All the prognostication pretty much goes out the window. As I was talking to Julian a few moments ago, at this point, it's about getting that 6th win. It's about getting bowl eligible so that we can get some more practice time. So, hey, it's 13 to 10, 55 to 1. It doesn't matter to me as long as we got that W.
It's all good when it comes out as a win, man.
It is all good, brother.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, you know, a lot of things have been shaking and baking here, folks, and we'll be talking a little bit later here about the latest and greatest, some comments about the NCAA and their scandal that's headed for us. Unique article in the Washington Post that came out here today. We're going to touch on all that here, but we do want to touch about last week here with Penn State and Indiana. And Greg, so what are some of the things that stood out in your mind here from last week's game?
I think a few things that stuck out to me. I guess the biggest thing that stuck out, which has been evident all year long, is our defense, coupled with our defensive coordinator, are just playing lights out football. He's calling an incredible football game, and those guys are responding in phenomenal ways. You know, what's really funny to me is we pretty much have the same defense this year that we had last year. And, you know, a lot of people would say, you know, well, evidently the defensive coordinator wasn't very good, yada, yada, yada. Well, in my opinion, there's a couple of factors there. One, I think we have a better defensive coordinator, a guy that's done it several times before. And two, those guys last year, who we pretty much returned everybody, are a year older, a year stronger, a year wiser, a year faster, and they just happen to be put in a correct scheme. For me, that was the first thing that I noticed, is those guys take it really personal to win football games. They realize that for us right now, we've got to win football games off their back, and they take it personal. Second thing that I noticed, or was actually very happy about, was I was really happy to see Bill Belton get that big run, because I know very well all those running backs had to be extremely frustrated this year. And I know Belton pretty well personally. He's a really good kid. He had so much desire to do well this year, not necessarily personally, but the entire running game for that team. So I'm just glad that, you know, there are a couple of things that could happen for him to make him smile and make him feel like he's contributing in a big way. Those are a couple of things that I noticed. You know, the other thing too, fellas, and we got to remember this. You know, we got smacked around last year by Indiana. We got smacked around the last time we played them. First time they had ever beaten us. So just to get a W at their place was pretty doggone good.
Absolutely. It was a great win. It was a tough one. Like we talked about, it was going to be a tough week for Penn State out there. We're just struggling, traveling a little bit, but, you know, a win's a win. And I got to agree with you about the defense. You know, they played excellent, and, you know, we shut down the run, because Indiana they're a run team. That's all they knew was run. And they did a great job shutting that down, and they struggled to pass, and that's what helped them come through with the victory. Fortunately, the defense, you know, had some endurance. Some of those conditioning from the preseason and during the season is paying off, because, you know, you get these games at the end of the year, it's easy to run out of gas. Our offense isn't keeping the ball on the field a lot of time. That's 3 in, 3 out, and it's easy for the defense to get worn out at the end of the day because the offense isn't having long, sustained drives. So these guys have shown some endurance on the defense side of the ball, keeping up with the other teams. And I think go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just going to bring Stefan in here as well. I noticed he just joined us. Stefan, we've been talking a little bit about some highlights of the game here from last week, and Greg touched on about the defense. And I didn't mean to interrupt you, Greg, so go ahead and finish your thought.
That's okay. I was just going to say one more thing that popped out to me was I do believe that the running back at Indiana, and we did a pretty good job of curtailing him, but I will tell you, gentlemen, we're going to see that kid on Sundays.
Oh, yeah. He's a tough
He is big, he is strong, he is fast, and he has incredible hips. That kid is not the leading rusher in the entire country for nothing. He just happened to face at big time, bring it to your defense Saturday, but that kid is special, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, you'll definitely see him out on Sundays. Stefan, what are some of your thoughts on last week's game?
Well, actually, first of all, I want to say I had a great time with Greg over there hosting us and giving us good videos while we watched the game. So I actually got a chance to watch the game with Greg. Sorry you missed that on us. We'll have to get you another time.
We'll do it. We're all separated from some distance,
But I agree with Greg. I mean, we get a phenomenal thing that shut down and running back in Indiana. Had their other issues with the other athletes. That's some really good athletes, but then the greatest part that I liked through the whole game was just not just the defense dominated. Just the defense gets better every week. They're growing up. More and more people are playing. More and more people I don't recognize. But I would say the O-line in the second half really picked it up. I mean, even though the O-line in the game by any means, the second half, it was more than competitive. And in some cases, they really were not controlling the line of scrimmage. And that's what you have to get out of all the players. And it was difficult to get that consistent push up front. But when we got the consistent push up front, we were able to do a few things, try to give Hackenberg time. In the second half, that's what my biggest thing was, how the offensive line responded. I always wondered, what they have. We can talk about what we're going to get next year, who it is we're going to get recruiting, but these guys have to want to get better and get ready for the Temple game. And if we can stay on the field a little bit longer than where we are, we got a chance of winning a couple more games.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what I saw. And that defense, man, hard-hitting defense, reminded me of the Penn State defense from the 80s, man. It was hard-hitting. It was out there. I thought they hurt him. And I think if we could switch that mentality over to offense, that even if the guy's going to beat you, something that you're going to know who you're going against, you're going to know you're going against a man. And if we can get 5 people to do that across front, and hopefully, I don't know what the story is on Donovan Smith. Hopefully, we can get Donovan Smith back because he is the anchor of the offensive line. Not having him hurts as well. So having that line pull things out. I did notice again, I think one of the things they want to do this week is, and Greg and I saw it and talked about it and observed it, we just need the line, though, to make sure that they put that extra effort in. A lot of there were times that we could have broken for a touchdown, and they weren't blocking badly. It was just the effort, the ability to fight to stay on the block, especially in the middle. And our center that they came in is a small, spry guy. He kind of reminds you of an old school, maybe Keith Radisick, there's some athleticism, but the difference between Radisick and this guy was Radisick was not going to come off the block. He was going to fight you, and he didn't care how much weight he gave up. That center, if we can get the center position and where we needed to get to, I think that's going to control a lot more things. So I'm looking forward to see what they do against Temple. The fact that they were able to play more people, it's not just about the wins and losses. I was watching the Eagles game at the Eagles game last night there. One backup linebacker said, our wins and losses are important, but it's getting through the process, which is even more important at the end. So we have more people that are ready to play, more and more people that are ready to, give Michigan State a good game by the time we get there, and we have the team really get to their practice so we can get there. I know that's a large task, it's a Herculean task, but the fact that they got that win on the road, ugly or not, it shows some things, shows some character, and the fact that Hackenberg was very patient this time, and Belton really ran well as well. Belton just played really good football in the second half, and Belton is a really good as far as pass protection. Now, I did notice, and some people mentioned other running back Lynch get the ball more, and he probably should. But they've got to really work with him more and more on his pass protection. You know, you got people coming off the edge, he's got to go and attack people. He hasn't gotten to the point, and I think that's what. And I think Greg talked about that. The difference between running backs playing is their ability to pass protect and understand what's going on with pass protection. So we're getting there, and I'm happy for the win. And like I said, I'm even happier we got more people better and had the character to pick it up in the second half.
You know, I'm looking at talking about Penn State's defense here. Tevin Coleman from Indiana. You know, out of all the games they played, they played Michigan State, Maryland, Missouri, and some of these other teams. Penn State has held them to lower average yards, 3.6 yards per carry, and he was the workhorse for Indiana. So the defense obviously did a phenomenal job. The longest run he had Saturday was 17 yards. That's his longest run, and he's been, these other games, he's getting 70. He'll burst one for 73 yards, 40. Yeah. He was Heisman candidate, man. This guy here is that type of a runner, and we just shut that man down. He wasn't going anywhere.
I'll tell you what, fellas. Have you guys taken a moment to think about this? And I actually just thought about this as we're speaking. I'm on one of our Penn State websites. Do you guys realize that we only lose 3 senior starters on our defense, and of the 3 seniors, and of the 3 senior starters, there's only 2. There's only 2 who would be significant losses. The 3 senior starters are Mike Hull, Adrian Amos, and Olanian. Olanian.
Wow.
Now, Olanian has done well for us. A good player, had a better year last year than he's having this year. But if you think about the defensive end rotation, and I'm not saying he's not of value or appreciated, but if you look at our defensive line rotation and the defensive end rotation, we are really thick there. Middle linebacker Hull, we're going to miss him big time because not only is he our leading tackler and he's the brains of the system, but the guy is that quiet, assassinating leader. Adrian Amos will be significant because of his years of experience. He's a 3.5-year starter. But if you really boil it down to it, we've got guys that are playing extremely well that they can plug in there as well. So I would say our greatest loss would be 1. If you combine the other 2, you're looking at a total of 2. So we've got 9 returning starters, and the majority of those backups, the second string guys that have been getting a lot of rotation. So our defense next year should, if we continue to progress, be even better than this year because they're gonna know the system already. But and if you look at the offensive side of the ball, as far as seniors are concerned, we're only losing in one spot. We're only losing in one, and that's Diefenbach. And of course, he's been injured most of the year. But you look at our tailback situation. We started out. Bless you. If you look at the tailback situation, we started out 3 deep. Zwinek gets hurt. We've got Belton, and we really haven't missed Zwinek being out. So if you look at that and total that, we're looking at 19 returning starters for the year, 18, 19.
It's going to only keep getting better.
we lose our kicker, which is going to be huge.
Yeah, we need to find somebody. Yeah, for sure.
But we've got our punters back. So when you hear people say Penn State is the second youngest team in the country, that's legitimate.
Right. Well, that's actually good. I mean, if you think about it, we're struggling this year. Given, look what we faced. Okay, we had a lot of bad stuff happening here. We're going to get to that a little bit later in the show when we talk about some of the stuff that's coming up. But in spite of all that, all the coaching changes, the transitions that everybody's gone through, and even Christian Hackenberg, he went from high school to an NFL coach from New England, and now here at Penn State, learning all these different systems. These guys have gone through some huge transitions, not mentally, emotionally, coach-wise, playbook-wise. Everything's these guys. Tip their hat to them all, because it is not easy making transitions like this from coaches to coach to different playbooks, different schemes, offensively and defensively. And every single one of these players up here has progressed tremendously. And on defense, they're kicking butt and taking names. Offense, we're struggling a bit. That's just because of depth issues. But I think it'll all come together here, especially in years to come. Because when it's recruiting, and as Coach Franklin dominates this state, and pulls in from others out here, I think it's just going to be a rise. It's going to be the rise again of a new Penn State football empire.
Absolutely. Now let's keep in mind too, Skip, 3 of the 4 games that we lost, we can honestly say there was a third party that helped us lose those 3 games.
Yeah,
we there was only one game that we played that we lost, but we didn't even get off the bus.
Yeah.
The other 3, there was a third party that was a significant contributor.
Oh man!
So
have you guys? And I don't mean to go off on a tangent. Have you guys noticed some of the officiating of them?
Man, listen. You didn't hear the word conspiracy from me, but you heard it from me.
Man, oh man! I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it.
I can understand if they were seemingly accidental calls, or seemingly, dude, these calls have been just so blatant that it makes my grandmother, who has been dead for 25 years, could see those calls.
Yeah.
And she could be walking down the street in heaven with Stevie Wonder holding hands, and they can both see those calls.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's a Greg, but I'll tell you.
But you didn't hear that from me.
Well,
so if you look at it in total, and I'm being very sincere about this, if you look at it in total, as horrible, and we have been horrible and have played horrible on offense, we have still had an opportunity to beat Ohio State, Michigan, and Maryland. We as terrible as we've been on offense, we've still had that opportunity. So what do you think happens when we absolutely have an opportunity to get our offensive line together?
Man,
what do you think happens there?
Watch out.
It's gotta be because we have been in ball games. We have literally been in ball games, every ball game except Northwestern,
right?
With an opportunity to win football games,
right?
With an offensive line that just has not performed well.
Well, yeah, and because of depth issues, it's not that these guys aren't out there trying. There could have been a game or two. Stefan mentioned he challenged them to step it up, and obviously they're trying to rise to that, but challenged because but you're right there. But the depth's definitely hurting. It's not like you can. It's not like Coach Franklin can yell like Joe and say, "Get him out of here," and get somebody else in, because you just don't have the depth.
Sure, yeah.
Well, you're gonna we all understand evolution. You're gonna see that these same 5 players, these same 5 guys up front, are gonna come back next year, and they're gonna be exponentially better. This year of getting just beat up, beat down, kicked around, talked about, abused, you're gonna see that when they come back next year, they're going to be so much better, because they will have gone through the fire. They will become a band of brothers. They will become cohesive, and they will have an entire year under the belt of learning how to communicate with each other. So it's not a talent. It's really, in my personal opinion, when it comes to those guys, because each one of them at individual times make plays. They just don't do it collectively together. Well, when we get past this year and we get those 2 spring practices along with the bowl game, with winter workouts and spring ball, you're going to see that offensive line is probably going to be one of the major strengths of our team next year.
Well, could be that crucible and refinement that they go through in the line of fire is intangible. It's definitely going to work a refining process within this team.
Yep. And you know very well, man, that those guys That offensive line, they're taking it personal, man. They want to do better, and it's deep down in their heart and their soul.
Yeah.
It's just that sometimes things just don't work out that way. But they're a bunch of really good kids. Otherwise, they wouldn't be at Penn State. So
right.
I know that they take it personal, and I know they internalize it. You listen to them in their interviews, and you can hear it in their voices that they really feel bad that Hackenberg is getting beat up, that their running backs who are good don't have an opportunity to show it. You can sense that. So those guys are going to take it personal. They'll be fine.
Right. Well,
I'll tell you what, the 92-yard run, I mean, the Ty Blair's run, by the way, I think that probably affirms what Greg is saying.
Yeah.
The fact that we're on the 8-yard line and everybody fires off the ball, on sync, in unison, holds the blocks. And it wasn't just the fact that it was great blocking, it was good that everybody holds the blocks. And then when you do that, you have options. Then Nelson is gone. The fact that you get a hold that wide, and the fact that you're able to make plays, the offensive line really, they made that play. And Dalton was able to take it. But normally on the 8-yard line, and I guess, Greg, that's what I meant the type of challenge is. When you have your action, what will you do? It's not even so much of whether you're a good kid or even a great player. Can we get the most out of you? That's one thing I learned. I mean, even though somebody plays football, what I do, I should say, basketball is not anything like it. We do have some people who could play college ball. But it's really about how do you get the most out of what you have. And I think that's what we saw on Saturday. Beside mistakes and everything else, they just weren't going to lose that football game. Even after that pick six, it didn't wreck us like a lot of other games where pick six would have wrecked us.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to them continuing to fight. That's all I want them to do is to fight. You want them to get better, and you hope that they're better. And like I said, the fact that we were able to get through that win, and we had a makeshift line, and it was good to see Miles back in there. The fact that I guess they're trying to make sure that they work him in. And seeing them work him in and meant an awful lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell you what, I got to say this, and because this has irritated me for probably 3 or 4 weeks now. I go on Blue White Illustrated and Penn State Scout and those sites, and spending 14 years in the Philadelphia area and being able to spend time with those wonderfully highly educated football IQ Philadelphia Eagles fans. I know. It really irritates me that we're in a day and age now and I completely understand you having the freedom to voice your opinion, but it just really, really irritates me that now we have become like everybody else and we attack our own. It's obvious that our offensive line hasn't done a great job. It's obvious, our punters haven't done a great job, and we've got some deficiencies. But what we have always known is no matter how bad they are or no matter how unproductive they are, either on a particular play or in a particular game, they're still ours. We're not going to trash our own. We're not going to. So I'm consistently seeing over the last three or so weeks how, the Fire Franklin posts, the overrated post. The Hackenberg is O'Brien made Hackenberg who he is. And it really irritates me because that's never been who Penn State has been. And I know it's a generational thing. So we're getting a little wiser. So some things like that we don't understand. But it's just starting to really irritate me that we have a quality coach, and in the middle of a season where we are in our year to get smacked around because of the sanctions, and given the sanctions, we're ahead of where we are where we should be wins and losses, but we start out 4-0. So all of a sudden the younger group thinks that we're going to the national championship, and when we lose a few, all of a sudden we say, get rid of the guy. Well, how about we take all the factors and conditions into consideration and understand that even at this point, we're not even supposed to be at 5 wins. We shouldn't have won 8 and 7 over the first 2 years of the sanctions. So it irritates me that we have those fans now that affectionately term, Philadelphia fans. I
would have to agree. No, I would certainly have to agree. That people are saying never, and it was the same way. When we were in school, you got half the people that congratulate you, you got a good team, you got a nice team, and then you got half the people that say, we put that schedule together with the sisters of Mary, brothers and sisters of the barn, and people are going to have Penn State fans. One thing I will say is, Penn State fans love their football. They have high expectations. That's not going to stop. And I think what you're talking about, Greg, is people look at the whole picture about how you support your team and how you support your team through a rough season. And to tell you the truth, it's still been a very relatively good season. Like you said, they could have gone either way. They personally, I think they've got a good shot for some people. If you didn't feel like you're homeless week, right?
No, let's rewind the tape. Those 3 games couldn't have gone the other way. They were manufactured to go the way that they went, so they could have never gone the other way. Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't have no problem with calling that out. Like the SEC might ban us for life, but
no, we're okay. We're okay, good guys. We're doing good, but the NCAA man, I like us, but you know what? That's somebody else who. It's like it's a good transition to talk a little bit about what's happening there. There's an article in the Washington Post. And even there, they're talking about foreclosure of the building. And I thought, some of the writers out there now finally starting to realize, and yes, we've had our injustice here at Penn State. I mean, obviously, we understand that the NCAA is a good old boys club. It's unethical. It's kind of shoot by the hip, do your own thing. We're milking everybody here. We got lots of money, and we've been doing it for 100 years, and nobody's going to care because nobody's going to audit us. We're not going to go away. But with some of the stuff with some of the other schools and the silly stuff that they've been pulling with them, the best thing you want is they keep opening their mouths and they keep doing stupid stuff. Because as that's going on, they're digging their own grave, and it's about time for them to fall into it dead. And I think that's definitely where it's going to be heading, because I think people are finally realizing you can't do this type of stuff. And it's like we touched on last week just a little bit when we talked about how it wouldn't be that hard to dismantle the NCAA and start all over again and do things right, above board, transparent in front of everybody all over again. Because all it takes is getting all the colleges and schools to say, we're done, see you, we don't want to be you. And that's it wouldn't be hard to do. And all we need to do is
one problem, Skip. Money.
Well, it's always the money. It's always the money issue.
Well, listen, man. Just about when we were at Penn State, the football team reported, the athletics who reported to the vice president of student services who reported. Now, guess what? There is a Division I football team where the football team does not report to that president's office.
Wow.
Right. So when you start talking about this man in the NCAA, how many people have interest representatives that are protected by the NCAA? So there's institutions that are dirty that are all the NCAA, and I don't have any problem with saying that's what happened in our investigation. And one former college president doing a solid for another term. As far as I'm concerned, and I won't go further than that, but I guess my thing is, Skip, if people were really serious about it, people would talk about other folks where they put their money at. That's the only thing that's going on when you think chillings, because there is no watchdog and there is nothing. There's compliance for every organization that has an NCAA sport in any way. And there's a compliance officer. There is no compliance officer to find out what the NCAA is doing. There's none. And that is totally wrong. Well, now, what has to happen is you have to ask yourself, how much ball do you want to play? And how much ball do you want to play to change things? And it doesn't change to get to NCAA. And those guys making they're making incredible money.
Oh,
and they are the drivers of a bus of especially a very, very large revenue producing sports, especially. I mean, you're talking about football Final Four, man. Let's think of football goes to a Final 80 or something else happens. I mean, this is only the beginning. When we start talking about they're bringing in And it's not that they shouldn't be in. They're bringing in people from the outside, ADs from certain schools, which is fine. But they're in for Condoleezza Rice, who's from Stanford, and maybe she's from the Pac-12, but maybe she doesn't like what's going on with the Big Ten. You know, just right. To me, you got to look up your mind how you're going to do things. You got it's not just a brand we're talking about a product. That's what I also don't like about their commercials. The commercials have become much more of a brand than a product. It's all about what we've become, you know. When we sat around Grace House this weekend, we talked about what the vision that brand was like to really support it. And the gentleman that we played against, Brian Cobb, you know, from Memphis, that's giving the secret, said, we need to put together a page that says real D1 football. So we kind of knew what it was, and now everyone's trying to protect themselves at a whole nother level. But I think that's what that's all about, you know. People stop giving money to programs and stop giving money to the places that the NCAA supports. The NCAA, the question is, are they doing the right type of compliance? I mean, my thing is, when you do that investigation, or whatever investigation is, it's not just about the incident. You go ahead and you investigate the entire athletic department and make sure, not just there is a picture of it, make sure the entire athletic department is running like it should, that it has its money, that it's solvent, that the money is going where it's supposed to be, that it's used with a certain uniform. The NCAA is going around with a bunch of firemen putting out fires that really, you know, you put out one fire, you don't put the whole thing out, you're firing it. Well, that's why you're talking with that organization.
Yeah, well, there's no consistency about the way anything is done in another school. Everything's treated on a, you know, and like you say, doing a solid for your buddy. You know, it all depends upon who it is and what's going on and who's sitting there doing it. Well, I think, what do you think? Well, put it out there. What is the best way to have the NCAA go away stuff? What has to be done to get the colleges and schools to say enough of this stuff? Is it finally going to take the point where the schools, everybody has somebody at and has been protecting everybody, and it finally blows up in their faces to finally say, I'm done with you? You know, at what point do we say enough's enough and start trying to rebuild something bigger and better?
Well, again, these decision makers are college presidents. I always say college presidents perhaps don't have anything to lose. The question is how do you build together a whole conglomerate of presidents that's going to do that? The college presidents, they're all holding a lot of the cards. The NCAA is right there. The question is, who has the guts to take them on? And then the people who don't really have an issue with the product, that don't like the NCAA, they may have to stop supporting the spirit. That's the only thing that's going to have to happen. The only way things are going to happen differently is people stop losing money. As long as people are making the money, people will continue to get ignored. Things will continue, like you said, to be handled like this on an individual basis. Really, the individual basis is one thing, but that's not as much of an issue as handling of not handling things in a holistic fashion. You know, you take a look at our things getting done, they're getting done, and when something comes up like we were involved with, like you know, last week we were talking with James Stassi, the issue in our situation is the NCAA failed to do the biggest thing in the world. They failed to do their own investigation. It took a report and read the investigation of one of the whole mistakes you can ever do.
Yeah, heinous.
Yeah, heinous. I try to use a better word. You know what?
Well, you know that we do have the FCC as watch over us, so I can get away some that way. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, I think it can be done. I wish Penn State at the time, but you know, again, it comes back to leadership, and Penn State didn't have it. Penn State. You know, we have these people, the trustees, you know, again, the good old boy club. And not to say that it's really changed too much about it either. I mean, they've always voted, and it's all about who knows who has money or whatever. And they kind of plays this game up here, the game of charades with the trustees and stuff. And I don't mean that to offend them. I don't. Hey, congratulations. God bless you. You've had success in different things in your life, and you're able to spend money and run for positions. This is great. Good for you. But you know what? Man, it does come down to character and integrity, and we need to start trying to find some people who have some components who can finally say, "Hey, you know what? If we could do it in hindsight, say, you know what, NCAA, you want to try to hold destiny over us? We'll just leave. You know, schools will still want to come to play us." And we'll hold on our own. And sooner or later, someone's going to say enough. I'm not playing your games anymore. I'm going to kick against you, and we've had enough of it. And how many schools finally can say that and go that route? I mean, there are conferences now, and you talked about, you noticing the advertisements and things like this. Look at the conferences, how they're selling good products now themselves. The Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
It's all become about money. It's all become about money. And sooner, even these conferences, the Big Ten could create its own conference. Say, look, NCAA, we have our own rules, and we're not doing this, you guys anymore. Do you think anybody's going to stop coming to games? Do you think anybody's not going to, the TV, ESPN's not going to come say, we're going to televise you and Penn State and Ohio State and you guys play? I think these colleges and schools got to realize the NCAA, as far as I'm concerned, is a group of parasites, and they found their ways to embed themselves into entities like schools that they can suck money out of to pay people money who are there, who probably couldn't get a job at Walmart if they had to, right? But because they knew they knew the right person. Come on, let's face it. You got a job there, why? Because you know somebody. You know somebody, you got hooked up, you got a salad. Let's face it, what qualifies these jokers to be in there? I don't know. I mean, let me see your resume, Dad. I mean, come on. I mean, and how did you get your resume? Again, it comes down to character and it comes down to quality. And when you're dealing with money like we're dealing with here, it may even be right down to the person who's the secretary answering the phone calls, who knows somebody. And again, this happens at all schools, across the country. And this isn't limited to just the NCAA. I mean, this cronyism and nepotism is built into any type of huge bureaucracy where you're getting lots of money, Penn State included. Okay, Penn State's not, everybody knows, and we've all known too, even at Penn State with football, some of the people coaching and things like that, they got a solid, they got hooked up, and that's just the way it went because, you know somebody. All right, that's part of this all networking type of thing. But sooner or later, and we saw it when it shook down here at Penn State. The guys who were good, the coaches who were good, they got offered jobs. That's simple. Someone stayed, someone went away. Sooner or later, your talent does have to speak for itself. And there's always injustice mixed in through it all. But in every department, in every school, somebody got hooked up with a job because somebody knew somebody who knows related to somebody who's whatever.
You don't want to call your name.
Hey, man, I'm not here to make enemies. I'm really not. I'm not out trying to offend anybody either. Hey, you know what? I'll call it the way it is. I'm going to tell people the truth about what it is as I see it. And
I love nepotism and cronyism and all that stuff as long as that person's qualified. If they're not qualified,
that's not the case then. You see, those are oxymorons because you can't be hooked up.
Exactly. Yeah,
exactly. The two never exist because if you're good, and you're that good, and you got a job, you don't have to worry about who's a friend of a friend who's related to somebody that gets you a solid.
Right? When I tell you the truth, that's why I would tell you the truth. I mean, in the long run, I did not feel as way before. I did like to coach Franklin higher because to me I felt like that was the third mistake about that. First I didn't understand it, but then I said to myself, listen, there are people you can put in who are proven in some ways, but then there wasn't any way to do it. I think we were in the broadcast, it was Skip, it was you and myself and Curtis and Blair. I mean, there was a lot of discussion and there was a lot of questions about why Larry was awesome to not get that job. I was not people that took that. I said, hey, that's wrong. This is a guy that's around, whatever. People are moving around, things are happening. And what we saw, I guess, that's happening at Penn State, I guess they've made some good decisions over the years to try to at least develop some type of newness. The kind of what Greg was saying, regardless, what newness means, you have to have patience. You got to have new staff. And you got Atkins, he's got two new coaches trying to find out and two separate offensive lines. And then somebody told me the same way, like Greg said, what's happening? They said, the quarterback, I thought he was good. He's horrible. I said, he's horrible? Wait, damn it. Wait a minute, time out. Put him down and current Ohio State offensive line, all these other things. Yeah. But then beyond that, because at Penn State, we played with what we got. So that's why, go ahead, Greg.
I was just going to say, we always have.
Right. And Greg made a point, and we were talking this weekend, when he transferred, he went to an institution that had far superior athletic talent, but they didn't have a guy you could come in and talk to, the guy you could come in and that played, as we call it, farm team, and be out there every day to make somebody better. Somebody you're not going to read about in the paper. Somebody that was going to go in and make a play. Like a Jimmy Coates. I mean, Jimmy Coates, we couldn't tackle him, we couldn't stop my farm team, and the guy ended up getting, having a decent career. But he's the guy that had a farm team on the walk at, and they're getting scholarship. So we have that, and we've had people that have done things that make big plays, but I think Penn State's program, what's been helpful is we get the most out of what we have. And I wish the university would follow suit and do the same. And allow Coach Franklin to do that. And I don't know what time period they gave, and Coach Franklin did make some bold statements about taking the state of Pennsylvania by storm. That's a big statement. I really kind of said at the beginning that we shouldn't have said, but what? You should listen, Coach, because you never know how it's going to go because of what they just talked about.
Well, let me ask you this, and Skip, you answer this question too. Did you grow up loving Muhammad Ali?
You know what? I would say up until I was about 7 or 8 years old, I did not. And you know why? Because I knew very little. I mean, I could read and other things, but I knew that everything I saw on TV about him was bad, and people were drawn into it. Yeah. And my mother had to explain to me that nobody really knows him, so we don't know him. He changed his religion, so we don't like that. But the question is, what did he do to anybody? That's what my mother was saying. Nobody ever did anything to anybody. All those things that were going on and we built, I always say not as much as that family like him now. For sure, that's my answer. So I didn't like it. I liked it.
The reason I asked you that question is because you and I come from pretty much cut from the same cloth, and that's a big reason why we all chose to go to Penn State as opposed to Miami or USC. It wasn't, the spotlight wasn't about us. I mean, it wasn't about the individual, it was about us and those things. But Muhammad Ali, I can honestly say, was the only athlete that I have ever liked. And I'm talking T.O., AI, all those guys. What was the guy that Rocky, the boxer, that Tommy Morrison? I've never liked any of those guys except for Muhammad Ali. And the only reason that I loved Muhammad Ali growing up is, well, 2 reasons. One, my dad loved him, so we used to watch him all the time. But two, I loved him because in all of his showboating and all of his talking and all those types of things, he really didn't do it to show people up. He didn't do it to, I think the only time that I ever heard him attack someone personally was when he was talking about Joe Frazier. But from the world that I came from, the world that I saw it from, if he told you he was going to take you out in the fifth, you going out in the fifth. So it wasn't a matter of talking a whole lot. It was because he backed it up. Well, for Franklin, when you know that you're dynamic, and and again, coming from Nashville, I have a personal connection in knowing what he created at Vanderbilt, because I'm telling you fellas, and y'all know this, Vanderbilt was every team's homecoming opponent. It was that team that as soon as they got off the bus, you said, all right, am I going to be sitting in the stands at halftime watching the rest of the game because this is going to be over at half? That was that team. So this guy goes in and does what he does there and gets a top 25 recruiting class at a school that the stadium holds 41,000. They literally get about 25,000, and you have to beg kids to come there. You have to beg students to come to games. And then you switch to this brand. Well, I was okay with him making that statement, and I'm even more so okay now because to this point, we got commitments from 9 of the top 10 in the state. We got commitments from 5 or 6 out of the top 10 in Maryland. We've got 2 of the top 10 in Maryland for 2016. I mean, he literally has done what he said he was going to do, and not by talking. It's by he and his staff working, because they literally worked themselves into graze. So I was okay with that statement, dominating the state, because and this is probably that a little bit of that Penn State snob in me. You got a lot of them, brother. I do. But if you think about it, Steph, and Skip, you and even Julian, you got to chime in here. But if you think about it, if we compare ourselves to our friends to the west and our friends to the east, well, quite honestly, if you got a kid that's in the top 10 in this state, and the three of them sit in that living room, is there really that much of a choice? Unless his parent or his uncle played at one of those two schools, is there really a true comparison academically and athletically?
I don't think so, Greg. I don't think so.
Okay.
But let me. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to
answer a question, Skip, about Ali.
Well, as far as Muhammad Ali, I like boxing. It's a great sport. He was a great athlete. And I think he's very talented. The only part I didn't like about him was I'm the greatest. There's just that type of part. That's the only thing I didn't like about him. The one thing I wanted to mention, backing up to a little bit what you were talking about, Stefan, was when Penn State, I think, went so far as to try to make sure there was an outsider from Penn State coming, when they really had somebody. I'm not going to say you told me this, but I know that this person's agent contacted Penn State, was trying to set up an interview at Penn State. And somebody we know personally. He was a grad assistant when we were here. Jim Caldwell, his agent, was trying to arrange something to even get an interview. He never got an interview at Penn State, and I think it's just because they went overboard trying to worry about the idea of somebody who's been here under Joe. And I mean, and again, hey, Coach Franklin, I look forward to see what he does here at Penn State. Wish him nothing but, hey, we're all on board, we're all supporting him. Hey, it's on board. But if we back up to all that point, I just don't understand why, Coach Caldwell has coached a team in the Super Bowl. Okay, what kid? I mean, again, I look, and I want Coach Franklin to produce great players who go play in Super Bowls. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for it. But the difference is, having a head coach who's coached guys, like a Manning, NFL quarterback. That type of a quarterback coach here with Coach Caldwell, and you have somebody who's taking teams to the Super Bowl. He's been there and done it all, from national championship teams to again, you talk about that kid sitting on a sofa there. I mean, 3 different schools with Penn State, and a guy and a coach who actually has a Super Bowl ring in his hand, who has those connections in the NFL. There's a difference, but again, I think Penn State went overboard to the point where they didn't want to show that they were trying to bring anybody who had any affiliation with Penn State in, and I didn't think that was fair of the process either.
And that's exactly what that was about, Scott. That didn't have anything to do with JC, because he would have been the perfect coach for this place. And had the situation not gone down the way it did, from my understanding, he or Tony Dungy would have been the next.
Oh my God! So man. Oh yeah, he's a phenomenal person too.
That's well. See, from and I got this from talking about sources. I got this from a board member who was very close to Joe, and he told me that before Joe actually told those guys that he was, during the summer before the last season, that it was going to be his last one, and he decided who he wanted to follow him, and it was going to be Tony Dungy. Well, when the whole section thing went down, Tony Dungy decided, it's going to take me having to rebuild this program, and I don't have that energy anymore. Had the situation would have been a smooth transition, Tony Dungy or JC would have been our coach.
Wow.
But I can totally understand Tony Dungy not wanting to, because that O'Brien had to put big time energy in it. Franklin had to put in big time energy.
Still is. Absolutely.
I was about to say, but those guys were 15, 18 years young.
Yeah, well,
they had that.
Oh man, yeah, he's
Think about this, though, fellas. Think about this. Let's go back to when we were in high school being recruited, knowing what we know about Tony Dungy and Coach Caldwell right now. Think about this. Saban and anybody their mama comes and sits in your living room to recruit you with your mom and dad, and then Tony Dungy comes and sits in your living room. Who do you think's going to win that fight?
That's a no-brainer. I mean, just the connections alone from NFL, having a coach like that.
Well, the fact that Tony Dungy raises boys to be men is huge. Well, I know my mom and my dad would tell me, son, I'm not going to pick your school, but that's where you're going.
That happened to me. That actually happened to me here. My mom and dad said, you don't know any small ones, but I mean, you're going here. They tell us come play football. You're going to go there if you're going to go at all. Yeah, no, I got that. I got that. And, I was blessed in my life. After the year of 86, 87, I actually stepped, I don't know if you came to that conference now. There's an Athletes in Action conference out of Pittsburgh. And Coach Dungy was the defensive coordinator at the time there at the Steelers. Tunch Yokin, Gary Anderson, a lot of the guys who were Christian athletes came out to the conference, and it was great. I knew a lot of the Penn State players who were part of our Bible study with. And to hear Coach Dungy talk and to see these men living it and walking it and talking, and then for year one in his own being a head coach in the NFL, suffering through these tragedies in his own life like he did. Man, what a great! That's okay. What great character! I mean, and that's true that Penn State needs is a man of character like these two men have. Coach Caldwell, I knew him as a freshman year, having some good talks with him about some deep personal spiritual matters. This man he's gone on track, and he is a good man. I mean, a good person. He's lived this out of his life. I love seeing these coaches. Who have character like that, not being ashamed to share it too. I don't know if you caught the Notre Dame loss at all, but wasn't that beautiful? Did you catch the interview at the end of the game?
No, I'm sorry, I missed it. What did you say, Skip?
Well, did you catch the interview at the end of the game with Arizona's head coach?
No, I didn't get to watch that game.
I'll tell you what.
I was busy celebrating my birthday.
Well, yeah, happy birthday, brother. But I'll tell you what. I liked it so much, and I actually put it on my Facebook page. So if you go out there, and a little bit later, I'll put a link up to it on my website.
Was it a good press conference?
Well, man, just to hear this man having things in the right perspective, in the right order of things, and to talk about it to the nation like he did, I thought was phenomenal. And I sat there and I'm like, this is fantastic. If I had a kid and they'd be like, you're going there, son. That's the type of coach I want to have you being top out here. And this type of man I want to have that in your life.
And you're talking about the coach at Notre Dame?
No, I'm talking Arizona State. And it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Yes.
Oh, come on! So you don't know his history?
Well, you know what? I don't know all of it, but I know what I did here. And
Google him.
I will.
And you and I could talk offline because I guarantee you that you will change that opinion quickly.
I hope not, but you know what? I'm basing it off of what I heard that day. And I listen. We all are in need of grace, and what I heard was grace in that man's life, and now it's manifested itself. So I'm thankful for that, and I hope that continues to go forward. But with what I heard from him, speaking from the heart there that day, I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be a good school for a kid to go to because of what the coach had to say. But again, hey, we'll talk after the show. After the show, you give me a call.
I want to do predictions, and then you got every coach of boss.
What's that?
So we're going to do predictions.
Let me pull it up here. I'm going to grab our. It's the fastest hour in football, folks. We've already burned through it here again. We get into our schedule coming up here. This week, wow, man, time flies with
it's so much fun that it flies by at a heartbeat.
Man, it is. I mean, this is next year, folks. Stay tuned for Some more. It's going to be a lot more fun. Look, the technology gets better. Now, right now, everything's being streamed live on the internet. You're catching us here. I'm looking forward to the point we can actually see one another and everybody can catch the show on video while we're doing this. Right now, we got it streaming here live, so everybody out in the country can catch it, along with our local affiliates, and we hope to build on them next year. But hey, looking up here to next week here, what do we see happening? We have Illinois and Iowa.
Oh, wow. Iowa played Grass last week. I see them losing 2 games in a row. I'm super okay.
Yeah, I got to take Iowa. They're not going to lose 2 in a row.
Yep, I think
especially the Illinois after their coach decided that he can't recruit kids because of the highest academic standards in the Big Ten.
What a show, man. What a show, man. And you know what's something that is? Knock it off!
We can't recruit the best athletes because of we have the highest academic standards in the Big Ten.
Yeah, okay.
That is so wild.
Yeah. Then we have Ohio State actually going to Minnesota.
Ohio State, no.
Yeah, I think so.
Ohio State is a close one.
No, I say a blowout because they are absolutely on the mission of that. They smell the playoffs. So you can best believe they're going to bring it every Saturday from here on out.
Yeah,
Ohio State still not as good as they think they are. I'm sorry, man.
They're not. No, I agree. They're not as good. But look at do you really think Minnesota is athletic enough to keep up with them?
No, I just think that I think Minnesota has the ability to be almost any game. I would say they played the most consistent in football this year. That's what I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Ohio State's going to win that one. I don't think it's going to be a huge big blowout, but I think they're going to win decidedly, but it's not going to be a blowout.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Nebraska at Wisconsin.
Wow. That's the question is a Neil Abdul about. If a Neil Abdul is back, I am taking Nebraska.
I was just, yes. So I'm with you. It's going to be the battle of the tailbacks, and it's going to be the battle of the healthy tailbacks. So if Abdul is healthy, Nebraska wins. If he's not healthy, that kid at Wisconsin is a stud. I'm going to pick I'm going to go with it's at home. Wisconsin's at home. I think you're going to win this one. It can be close, but I think we're going to win this one. I think Wisconsin will be done.
It's a good pick, man. It's a good pick.
Yeah, I think we'll do all right. And now next we have this ought to be interesting to see how Notre Dame shakes out after this last loss. They play Northwestern when it's at Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take the Irish.
Yeah, I think they're going to come off this one. I was glad to see them lose. I was just so happy last week when I saw that. Okay, then of course we have this ought to be interesting. You have Maryland and Michigan State.
Oh, Michigan State, they're angry.
Yeah, they're going to be angry. Michigan State angry,
and I don't know if you guys saw, but the Diggs kid who started all the shenanigans when we played Maryland, he's out for
Stephon Diggs.
Yep, he's out for the rest of the season with a lacerated kidney that he received playing us.
Well, sometimes things work out for certain reasons, but I don't wish that on anybody, but man, sometimes the Lord takes care of crazy people and old folks and kids. So yeah.
Wow. Hey, Indiana at Rutgers.
Rutgers.
Yep, I'm with you. Of course, here Penn State's home with Temple.
Penn State's big, baby.
You saying 121?
I don't know how big. Penn State by 22.
Yeah, I'm with you, Stephen. I'm with you on that one, Stephen.
What? Penn State by 14?
Penn State by 14.
Okay, see, now, my definition of big is different than yours because of things being skewed this year. To me, big is 7. this year. I'll say Penn State by 10. I think because Temple is extremely one-dimensional. And but I don't know if you guys realize, they scored a defensive touchdown every game this year.
Yeah, so they're dangerous.
They lead the country in points against I think I mean not lead the country. They're number 6, I believe. They lead the country in scoring defense. So we're probably looking at a strength on strength game. But I watched them the other night against Memphis, and they didn't look all that good. But at the same time, they beat an extremely good East Carolina team.
Yes, they did.
But fellas, they caught East Carolina at home.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, Beaver Stadium is worth at least a 7-point advantage.
Okay. There we go. And that's
Stephanie, you guys going up to the game?
No, I can't make it to the game.
Okay.
Well, I'll see you again here, Greg. Look, and safe travels to your brother. And I actually have to do a bunch of running around that morning, but I will be there. But I'll be catching up with you Thursday, Friday when you get here, man. Look forward to seeing you.
Sounds good. Yeah. Good deal. Yeah, I'll be in for my niece's basketball game on Friday. So,
wow. Well, it's the fastest hour in college football, folks. You've been listening to Lions Live here, Broadcast State College. Big dude Stephen Davis, Greg Johnson. My name's Skip Bravos. Thanks for joining us. Catch you here next week. Lord bless and keep you. We'll see you then. Have a good night.
All right. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Oh, yeah.